For those of you that don't know me, my name is Melissa Good. I work for the University of Alaska Fairbanks with Alaska Sea Grant under the Marine Advisory Program. I'm here in Unalaska, and I'm here to serve the Aleutian and Pribilof region. So our next session is going to be on effective science communication. Everyone here has an amazing story, and you've shared a lot of them with us today. These stories are of discoveries, revelations, and even inspirations. And the world deserves to hear all of these stories. So for this session, I have the first talk. And I thought just to start us off, I would talk about effective science communication in general, and then just give an overview of Alaska Sea Grant, some of the approaches that they've done, and several of our programs that we have. So what is it and who does it? Effective communication transmits a message clearly and concisely. It helps your audience to have the tools and information available so that they can make their own informed decisions. Effective science communicators educate non-specialists about specific topics and issues and debates in ways that can be informative, accessible, and even empowering. Science communication is something that happens in a scientist's everyday life. Scientists give talks, they write papers and proposals, they communicate with various audiences, and they educate others. Thus, to be successful, regardless of what field a scientist is in, a scientist must learn how to communicate. And moreover, scientists must learn how to communicate effectively. So in other words, to be a successful scientist, you need to be an effective communicator. When scientists communicate effectively, science thrives. Science is increasingly an interdisciplinary study, and the ability to communicate more effectively across disciplines fosters collaboration and innovation, and can even help secure funding, something that we're all always seeking out. Being able to communicate the relevance and impact of scientific ideas and discoveries can allow you to write comprehensible research papers. And effective communication can enable scientists to become teachers and mentors for the next generation of scientists. But it's not just the established or budding scientists that we need to be targeting. Sure, no one can argue that writing a peer-reviewed research paper is the same as writing a blog for high school students, or that giving a scientific presentation is the same as standing in front of a group of elementary kids trying to teach them about climate change. But scientists, science communicators, need to be able to deliver their message to many different audiences. Many of us are very passionate about what we study, and we owe it to the world to share our new discoveries with the rest of them. And although public communication can seem very different from scholarly communication, there are a lot of similarities. The first off, know your audience. Who are they? You need to know your audience and who you're trying to reach, as it affects everything else you do and every steps that you take to reach them effectively. Are you talking to someone in your same discipline, or are you talking across different fields? Are you communicating with a potential funder or possibly the local radio station? Regardless of your message and your goal, you always need to know what your message is and to be able to state it simply. You also need to know how you're going to communicate that message. Are you going to use multimedia? Are you going to stand in front of an audience and talk to them? Or are you going to make a publication, whether that's a scientific article, or is it going to be a pamphlet that you're going to hand out to people? And you want to use the right type of medium to get your message out there. You don't want to be trying to deliver your message through online resources when you're trying to reach, say, rural Alaska where internet connectivity isn't great. You want to make an impact. You want to make a ripple. And reaching to people in the appropriate way can ensure that your message is heard clearly. And as Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Not that there's any lack of challenges in this. Traditionally, scientists haven't been taught those communication skills that are necessary to talk to various audiences. I think that's something that's changing, but something that we need to continue to work on. There's also can be an inability to simply simplify technical research findings. There can be attitudes about sharing information, or trying to hold information close so you could publish it. There also could be a lack of an appropriate platform. Basically, if there's a lack of ability to reach your target audience, you're going to have a difficult time getting that message to them. And speaking of your audience, take into account that individuals within the audience have their own applicable knowledge of the issue or topic at hand. And this may be based upon personal experiences, rich cultural backgrounds, such as many of the people that we see in Alaska. It could be traditional knowledge or regional conventional wisdom. Or someone, even a peer, may just have a different perspective that's worth looking at. There are things to keep in mind, or these are things to keep in mind when trying to communicate effectively. I just want to switch gears here now and talk to you about Alaska Sea Grant in general. Not everyone here in the audience, I don't think, is familiar with the Alaska Sea Grant. So rather than focusing on what I have been doing, I thought just sharing a little overview of what we do in general, give people an idea of how Alaska Sea Grant can help different people within the communities and researchers connecting with those communities. So Alaska Sea Grant is a part of the National Sea Grant College Program, which is a program of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. It's a national network of 33 Sea Grant colleges and universities that are involved in scientific research, education, training, and extension projects. And these are all geared towards conservation and the practical use of coasts, the Great Lakes, and other marine areas. Alaska Sea Grant strives to communicate effectively through several different ways. We identify and prioritize emerging coastal and marine issues. We develop educational activities and extension programs that transfer knowledge to individuals or groups so that people can solve problems themselves or maybe even create new opportunities for themselves. We develop links with organizations, agencies, institutes, and individuals in order that we can maximize our extension and education programs. We also evaluate the effectiveness and impacts that our programs have, and we try to adjust accordingly. We use several different methods, but something that we like to focus on with our methods is to tailor whatever we're doing, whether those educational or extension, works based upon the objective, the audience, the communication avenues, cultural differences, access to information for the area, and other regional aspects or circumstances. As we know, Alaska is a huge state with many people that are resource dependent but very far from each other. In response to this, Alaska Sea Grant has developed an extensive marine advisory program that's throughout the state. If you look at the map here, you could see the name of each of the communities where Alaska Sea Grant has a physical presence, so has actually somebody there in that community. Alaska Sea Grant attempts to link science-based information and technical assistance with users who might otherwise have limited access to that. We've developed programs in marine safety, seafood technology, fisheries and marine education, and conservation. I'd like to just showcase a few of these different programs that we have, many of these that have been implemented within the communities here in the Aleutian Islands. These will cover K-12 communication, general communication, community education, and extension work. Next. Oh, there we go. For K-12 education, we have Alaska Seas and Watershed, which is a place-based curriculum. It's online, so it's available to all of the schools within Alaska. This curriculum has been written to meet the latest state and federal education standards for public schools. So it's a curriculum that can be implemented in schools and they still meet their standards. We also, agents in the different communities will do classroom visits, so we'll do lectures within different classrooms, or experiments, we'll lead field trips. We participate in Sea Weeks or help to develop Sea Weeks, so a week-long learning sessions about the marine environment, including fisheries. We are National Ocean Science Bowl coaches in some of the schools. We participate in career days, and we also provide educational support. And this is either in having an actual presence or with providing materials or professional development for teachers. In community education, Marine Advisory Program agents facilitate outreach by researchers, connecting scientists with Alaskan communities in ways that are appropriate and relevant to each of those communities. And we encourage and support two-way communication between scientists, managers, and community members. We also host and participate and support in different workshops, forums, and symposiums around the state, the Aleutian Life Forum being one of them. And we also have a lot of different types of publications. We do different web-based publications, pamphlets with informational material in them, and then up to different types of books, such as identification guides for different marine organisms. Extension is kind of the bulk and the rest of the work that we do. We have a good business and marketing section. One thing that we do with business and marketing is we have a FishBiz website. So the FishBiz website is informative and interactive, and it's a resource to help people start and enter into different fishing industries. And it's all the way through until doing a good business plan to retirement. So we have some informational material in there or links on who to talk to get this kind of information. We've also played a big part in developing the Alaska Maritime Workforce Development Plan. We've spent quite a bit of time doing research and providing funding for different aquaculture projects. Currently, we're working on a seaweed mariculture project, pairing up with industry down in Southeast to see if we can establish seaweed mariculture. We have a couple of people that are just primarily dedicated to seafood processing and technology. This includes classes and workshops, HACCP classes, quality control classes, better processing controls. And then we also have the Alaska Seafood Institute, Alaska Seafood Leadership Institute, which helps individuals within the processing industry gain the skills to move up within the industry. And we work on product development. I think a lot when Rick was giving his presentation, which was excellent, on utilizing fish in a better way and in a more sustainable way. And Alaska Sea Grant works on figuring out how to use different pieces of the fish to make new and emerging products. We also do marine mammal response. Many of the agents, including myself, are part of the Marine Mammal Stranding Network. We are in various communities around the state, so oftentimes we are the first person to respond to a dead or live stranded marine mammal. We also do a lot of work with unusual mortality events. Last year, if everyone remembers, the Gulf of Alaska, there was a large whale die-off. Alaska Sea Grant was one of the first responders to get on with the unusual mortality event and help out with that. As far as marine recreation and tourism, we have developed vessel fuel efficiency, informational guides to hand out to people. And then we've worked with the tourism industry in Southeast to monitor for invasive species. These are all just examples of some of the programs that we do, some of the connections that we can make, and the ways that we can make new partnerships. But what really makes us successful is effective communication. We pay attention to what people need to know and what people want to know. So that way they can apply what they're learning to their everyday life. We constantly evaluate statewide priorities related to those informational needs. And this includes what people need to know about harvesting fish resources, marine mammal resources, doing that safely, making a living as a seafood harvester, seafood processor, or working in other maritime industries. We also try to create stewards of our environment and help people make decisions, often on sometimes contentious issues or policy issues, about marine watersheds and ecosystem resources. We create opportunities for two-way communication whenever possible, and we build partnerships whenever possible. This is just a slide of a whole bunch of logos of just a few of the partnerships that we have. A lot of them have just been the partnerships that I've created, but there's only so much room on a slide to include everybody. And I really have to thank our advisory committee who guides Sea Grant and a lot of the avenues that we pursue. And if you look at it, you could see we have representatives from industry to government to academia. In Orville, wherever you're at, you stole my favorite quote. That's why you're supposed to be in my session. But in the end, we will conserve only what we love, we'll love only what we understand, and we'll understand only what we are taught. And with that, thank you. Any questions?